All right. Last time we took a look at the NFC East, wrapping up our tour of the East Coast teams. Today we start our way south and focus on the two southern divisions. The AFC South is the first one on the docket. Two South divisions the past couple of years have been seen as kind of the least of the eight divisions. Since 2015, the AFC South has had every team win the division except the Colts. Each year, the winner of this division is seen as more of an upstart team with the potential to upset a true contender, but haven't really been viewed as a contender in their own right. Even when the Titans were winning 12 games a season behind Vrabel and Derrick Henry, they weren't really put on the same level as the Chiefs, Ravens, and eventual Bills. Now, in the 19 to 20 season, the Titans did make it to the AFC Championship game, but got beat 35 to 24 by the eventual Super Bowl champion Chiefs. But I'm getting ahead of myself on specific teams. Point being, since the 2009 to 2010 season, the AFC South has been represented only three times the AFC Championship game in 15 years. Those being the 09 to 10 Colts, 17 to 18 Jacksonville Jaguars with Blake Bortles in that crazy defense when Tom Brady stormed back and won the AFC Championship, and the aforementioned Titans that lost to the Chiefs. Here recently, it's been sort of a division with unrealized talent, with the Jags winning the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes and not doing much with him because of coaching incompetence, as well as weird fascination with Trent Baalke in the front office, which they rectified in January. And CJ Stroud, who has had an amazing rookie year, only to be left out in the cold this year when his offensive line imploded and his receivers couldn't stay healthy. This is a division of sleeping giants if they could push the right buttons to wake them up. Outside of the Colts, each team seems to have their QB of the future. Let's dive into each team individually and see where they stack up in the 5 tier grading scale. Again, as in past episodes of the series, each team will be put into one of five categories: contender, competitive, middling, rebuilding, or cellar dweller, along with a 3 game spread where I see their ceiling or floor. So let's begin. First up is last year's division winners, the Houston Texans. The Texans have come a long way since the days of Jack Easterby and have really turned a new corner under new management and coaching in the form of previous Patriots front office man Nick Caserio and head coach D'Amico Ryans, who came over for the 49ers in 2023. In the 2023 offseason, the Texans waved goodbye to the likes of tight end O.J. Howard, traded away wide receiver Brandon Cooks to the Dallas Cowboys, all defensive end Rasheem Green signed with the Bears, and edge Agbonia Okoro signed with the Cleveland Browns. Not exactly biblical losses, considering none of those guys did much after leaving, with Rasheem Green only lasting a season in Chicago, Okoronkwo only posting 7.5 sacks in 2 seasons with the Browns, and O.J. Howard briefly signing with the Raiders but never accrued any stats, and has been out of the NFL since. In the 2023 offseason, the Texans added a lot of pieces, but made sure not to overpay, knowing that they wanted to target the draft as their way to relevancy. In free agency, they added quarterback Case Keenum, running back Devin Singletary, offensive tackle Greg Little, guard Shaq Mason in trade with the Bucks, defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, and cornerback Shaq Griffin, and safety Jimmy Ward. The draft in 2023 was where they made their hay and came away with more than one pillar for the future. With the second overall pick, the Texans selected Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud and then traded up with the Cardinals to select Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson with the third pick. They also managed to nab Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson in the mid to later rounds, all guys that are huge building blocks today. Why am I bringing up the 2023 offseason with the Texans when I didn't previously with other teams? Because this was essentially the offseason where they laid their future that's still prominent today. In the 2023 season, the Texans shocked everyone and went 10-7 and stuck into the playoffs, and even won a playoff game with a rookie head coach and quarterback dismantling the Browns 45-14 before losing to the Ravens in convincing fashion in the divisional round. But after that season, they were essentially the talk of the NFL, and everyone thought this would be an excellent springboard in 2024, where they would make their mark as a true contender with the likes of the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. Heck, their offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick was being looked at for head coaching jobs. It was all looking up going into 2024. In the 2024 offseason, the Texans lost a decent amount of players to free agency in the form of running back Devin Singletary, offensive tackle George Fant, defensive tackle Malik Collins, defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, and linebackers Blake Cashman and Denzel Perryman. Again, not huge losses, though from the outside looking in, defensive tackle Collins and Rankins were solid players. Texans fans let me know otherwise. They went on to add running back Joe Mixon, wide receiver Stephon Diggs, defensive end Daniil Hunter, defensive tackle Mario Edwards, linebacker Aziz Ashir, and cornerback Jeff Okuda. In the draft, the Texans added Georgia cornerback Kamari Lassiter in the second round, and Notre Dame offensive tackle Blake Fisher with their second round pick, University of Southern California Kalen Bullock in the third, and Ohio State tight end Cade Stover in the fourth. The Texans obviously missing their first round pick from the trade the year prior. In the offseason and preseason, the expectations were fairly high, with CJ Stroud going into year two under the same offense and obvious upgrades at key positions like cornerback and pass rusher. And on top of the fact that the rest of the division was seen as weaker, they're also consensus for division winners. 2024 season started off hot for the Texans, starting 5-1 and were humming. However, the wheels started to come off after that, and the Texans finished 5-6 with injuries piling up as a downturn in production for key players. The offensive side particularly struggled, finishing 22nd in yards per game, 21st in passing yards per game, and 25th in rushing yards per game. The offensive line had major issues with pass protection, particularly up the middle, and led to CJ Stroud taking 52 sacks behind only Chicago's Caleb Williams. It wasn't all on the offensive line, with reports coming out that Bobby Slowick's scheme didn't have enough leak outs or good checkdown options that compounded the situation. Texans were heavily carried by their defense throughout the season, with the defense ranking 6th in yards allowed, 4th in yards per play, 5th in takeaways, and 26th in penalty yards. Even with all the offensive turmoil, the Texans won the division and made the playoffs, beating the LA Chargers in the first round 32-12, and then losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round 23-14. 2024 was a weird season for the Texans, but ultimately I think it was beneficial, especially with the younger team getting a taste of upper tier competition, facing a first place schedule only in their second year. After the 2024 season, the Texans fired offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick and brought in Rams passing coordinator and tight ends coach Nick Caley. This past offseason, the Texans let go of starting left tackle Laramie Tunsil in a trade to Washington. Stephon Diggs left for the Patriots. Offensive guard Kenyon Green left for the Eagles. On the addition side, the Texans brought in wide receiver Christian Kirk from the Jags, left tackle Cam Robinson from the Vikings, brought back defensive lineman Sheldon Rankins from the Bengals, traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles, and offensive guard Lincoln Tomlinson from the Seahawks. In the draft, the Texans nabbed Iowa State wide receiver Jaden Higgins with their first second-round pick, Minnesota offensive tackle Ariante Ursary with their second-round pick, Iowa State wide receiver Jalen Noel with their first third-round pick, cornerback Jalen Smith from USC with their second third-round pick, and USC wide receiver Woody Marks with their fourth-round pick. I genuinely like what the Texans did this offseason. I know a lot is made up with the offensive line woes and losses with Laramie Tunsil leaving, and the Texans seem to be relying a lot on a rookie in Cam Robinson to replace his production. But I think with good coaching and scheme, CJ Stroud can minimize a lot of the problems from last year. The defense should be great again this year under D'Amico Ryans. However, the Texans do have to play another first place schedule again, obviously, and play both AFC West and the NFC West this year, along with the Bills and Ravens. Even with that tough schedule, no one in the division really scares me. Give me 9-12 wins with this team firmly in competitive territory. Next up is the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts, well, are in a very weird circumstance. The Colts have been scrambling for a franchise quarterback since Andrew Luck hung it up out of the blue in 2019, which has been 6 years now, believe it or not. The Colts thought they had a blank canvas with Anthony Richardson, but it hasn't exactly worked out in the Colts' favor. Their GM, Chris Ballard, has been there for a hot minute now, being hired in 2017, and seeing 3 head coaches walk through the doors in Chuck Pagano, Frank Reich, and now Shane Steichen, with Shane being there since the 2023 offseason, coming over from the Eagles after the Super Bowl run. In my eyes, Shane and Chris are firmly on the hot seat, and I'm not sure if they put together enough to save themselves. But let's see how 2024 went. In the 2024 offseason, the Colts brought back most of the 2023 season, with top losses being quarterback Gardner Minshew, running back Zach Moss, and wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie, and defensive end Jacob Barton. They went on to add veteran quarterback Joe Flacco and Raekwon Davis, while mainly focusing on handing out extensions to their own players and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., linebacker Zaire Franklin, defensive back Kenny Moore, and defensive tackle Grover Stewart. In the draft, the Colts selected UCLA edge player Laiatu Latu in the first, Texas wide receiver Adonai Mitchell in the second, Pitt offensive tackle Matt Conglaves in the third, Wisconsin center Tanner Bortoloni in the fourth, Oregon State wide receiver Anthony Gould in the fifth, with their fifth, safety linebacker hybrid Jalen Carles out of Mizzou with their second fifth-round pick, and safety Jalen Simpson out of Auburn with their last fifth-round pick. Going into the 2024 season, the book was still out on Anthony Richardson. His rookie season didn't go well, being limited to 4 games before being shelved for the season with an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder. He put enough on tape to intrigue the coaching staff, but definitely struggled playing on time and in rhythm, completing only 59% of his passes. They handed him the keys of the kingdom and started the season, and the Colts went 4-3 in their first 8 games, missing 1 game to a grade 1 hip sprain in week 4, before being benched after taking himself out of a game due to exhaustion after week 8. Joe Flacco started until week 11. Richardson was then put back into the starting role after returning and subsequently suffered a lower back lumbar sprain, grade 1, before week 17, causing him to miss the last 2 games of the season. As you can tell, the 2024 Colts passing game suffered a whole bunch. Now, the struggles of the 8 and 9 2024 Colts don't solely lie on the quarterback play, though it did obviously play a big part. The team was also mediocre at best on the defensive side of the ball, ranking 24th in points allowed, 29th in yards allowed, and 24th in takeaways, which is a little bit misleading because they were only four shy of Houston, who ranked 14th, but the point still remains their defensive statistics weren't great. The one thing they could hang their hat on was their run game, which ranked 8th in the league, and their offensive line, especially their tackles, are seen as a strength. Colts were a weird 2024 team because they were multiple games they held leads going into the second half and just couldn't finish the job. The Broncos game and the Jaguars game in week 5 stand out as the best examples. They played their top competition close, especially in the division, losing to the Texans by a total of 5 points across both games. They held the Dolphins to 10 points, then they gave up 45 to the Giants with the season on the line in week 17. They just had very little consistency from week to week. This offseason, the Colts fired their defensive coordinator Gus Bradley and brought in longtime Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo to help shore up that side of the ball with no changes to the offensive coordinator. For offseason losses, the Colts said goodbye to quarterback Joe Flacco to the Browns, linebacker EJ Speed to the rival Texans, longtime center Ryan Kelly to the Vikings, offensive guard Will Fries also to Minnesota, and defensive end Dayo Adengbo to the Bears. In the additions column, the Colts added guys like defensive back Charvarius Ward from the 49ers, defensive back Corey Ballantyne from the Packers, quarterback Daniel Jones from the Vikings, running back Khalil Herbert from the Bengals, and linebacker Eric Johnson from the Pats. In the draft, the Colts added their prime target, Penn State tight end Tyler Warren in the first, defensive end JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State in the second, Minnesota quarterback Justin Wiley in the third, Iowa State offensive tackle Jalen Travis in the fourth, and Kansas State running back DJ Giddens in the fifth. The Colts going into the 2025 season have one massive question to answer, and that's if Anthony Richardson is their quarterback of the future. And as of right now, it's not looking so hot with him already being injured to start the offseason workout program. Questions about his work ethic have also popped up, and there's a real possibility that he could flame out over the next year. The Colts are in a similar position to the New York Giants in my eyes, just with better talent outside of the quarterback position. They strike me as a middling team, a team spinning their tires trying to get out of the mud with no success. It's not entirely their fault, as they are in the spot after Andrew Luck retired, but all their patchwork fixes at quarterback have not led to any success. Give me 69 wins again. Third up are the Jacksonville Jaguars. I won't spend too much time on 2024 since they basically gutted their entire front office and coaching staff in January, firing Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke. I will mention before we start this that the way the Jacksonville Jaguars started out the offseason was not on stellar ground. I wholly believe that Jacksonville could have had a shot at top coaching candidate Ben Johnson if they would have made the obvious move to get rid of Trent Baalke 2 weeks before they actually did it. I don't know what Shad Khan was thinking. Now, there are those out there in the Jacksonville fan base that wholeheartedly believe that Liam Cohen was a better coaching candidate and has a better shot at being successful than Ben Johnson. I can't really argue against that considering neither has coached a single game as head coach yet, but I'm just not in that camp. To be brief, the 2024 Jaguars didn't make the playoffs, going 4-13 after going 9-8 the year prior and making the playoffs the year before that. An ESPN report came out during the season describing the locker room as undisciplined and not mentally tough. That's their quotes, not mine. They had issues with blown coverage and eye progression. Their defense was one of the worst in franchise history, ranking 27th in the league in points scored against and allowing 6,629 yards, which ranked 31st only behind the Carolina Panthers. The Jags ranked 26th in points scored at 320 and 26th in rushing yards on offense. They averaged 2.13 yards per rush before contact, which was 31st behind, again, only the Panthers. Trevor Lawrence's season-ending injury in Week 13 against the Texans was just a cherry on top of the dumpster fire that was the 2024 Jaguars season. To be fair, the 24 Jags had talent. They just had no anchor in the coaching staff or front office to get the most of that talent. Again, coaching matters. Like I said before about the 2024 season, the Jags jettisoned everyone, even eventually Trent Baalke, 16 days after firing Doug Peterson when it became apparent that no one wanted to coach under Trent. They eventually hired Bucs offensive coordinator Liam Cohen after a bizarre 48 hours that saw him turn down the job because of Trent. Then the Jags fired Baalke, and then Liam Cohen changed his course before he signs an extension and pay raise with the Bucs and signs with the Jags. On February 21st, almost a month after the Liam Cohen hiring, the Jags then landed on Rams front office wonderkid and James Gladstone. Before I start this write-up on the Jags, I was worried it was going to be short because of the fact I'm not covering the 2024 season since there isn't really anyone left from that coaching staff or front office standpoint. But this offseason has been so weird and nuts for the Jags, it will probably end up being the same as the previous two teams. Anyway, after all the dust was settled in the front office and the coaching staff, the Jags dug into the free agency. In free agency, they parted ways with wide receiver Christian Kirk to the Texans, tight end Evan Ingram to the Broncos, wide receiver Josh Reynolds to the Jets, punt returner and kick returner Devin Duvernay to the Bears, safety Andrew Sisko to the Jets. With their additions, they added offensive guard Patrick Vicari from the Ravens, edge Emmanuel Ogbah from the Dolphins, cornerback Jordan Lewis from the Cowboys, safety Eric Murray from the Texans, wide receiver Diami Brown from the Commanders, and center Robert Hainsey from the Buccaneers. In the draft, the Jags got crazy, especially in the first round, trading their fifth overall pick, their second rounder this year, their fourth rounder this year, and next year's first round pick for the Browns' third overall pick, a fourth round pick this year, and a sixth round pick this year to select Colorado wide receiver slash defensive back Travis Hunter. In the third round, the Jags selected Tulane cornerback Caleb Ransall with their first third round pick, West Virginia offensive guard Wyatt Millum with their second third round pick, electric Virginia Tech back Bashal Tootin in the fourth, and linebacker Jack Kaiser also in the fourth round. Going in the 2025 season, the Jags are a boomer bust team. They play in a weak division, but again, going back to what I said about the Texans, they do have to play the AFC and NFC West this year, which are not pushover divisions. If Leo and Cohen can unlock a new gear for Trevor Lawrence and their defensive staff led by Anthony Campanile can at least raise the floor on the defense a few pegs, this could be at the very least a 500 team. I'm honestly going to put them in the middle league category with the Colts, with the same win total, that being 69 wins, but I believe there is more potential here for the higher end than that with Colts, just merely for the fact that I trust Trevor Lawrence more than I do Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. Last up on the docket is the number one overall pick selecting Titans. Let's travel back into a time in the 2022 draft. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. Suddenly, the marquees changed to the Titans. It slowly trickles out that the Titans had traded star wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Eagles for that first round pick, in which the Titans used it to select Arkansas wide receiver Traylon Burks to replace A.J. Brown's. Might I remind you, at the time, A.J. Brown was 24 years old and just rattled off two 1,000-yard receiving seasons in 2019 and 2020. In 2021, he had a quote-unquote down year with 869 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. I bring up this point in time because videos surfaced later that Mike Vrabel was not happy to see A.J. Brown go. You have a young rising star receiver under a rookie contract for at least the next year, and you decide to outsmart yourself and draft a replacement for a 24-year-old. This leads me into my next point that the Titans are a mess of an organization right now and have been for a few years. Mike Vrabel, in my humble opinion, was the only thing keeping that organization grounded and coaching through some awful roster decisions and still managed to win and fairly consistently. So what does he get for his effort? Titans fire him in January 2024, with reports coming out that the owner, Amy Adams Strunk, that she wanted better communication and cohesiveness throughout the organization, so she let Rand Carthon, who was hired the year prior, select his new head coach and Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan to help with this continuity and communication. So as I'm going through the 2024 synopsis, keep these facts at the front of your mind, and we will return to this point. In 2024, after they hired Brian, the Titans went on to say goodbye to longtime quarterback Ryan Tannehill, officially handing over the keys of the kingdom to Mr. Mayo. Derrick Henry was also allowed to leave for greener pastures. Offensive tackles Andrew Dillard and Chris Hubbard were also allowed to leave, along with center Aaron Brewer. Defensive end Nico Autry, linebacker Aziz Ashir, and cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting. They brought in quarterback Mason Rudolph to back up Will Levis, Dallas running back Tony Pollard, wide receiver Calvin Ridley, offensive guard Sadiq Charles, center Lloyd Cushenberry, defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day, linebacker Kenneth Murray, cornerback L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, and cornerback Jadobi Awuzie. In the draft, they added Alabama offensive tackle J.C. Latham in the first, defensive tackle Devondre Sweat out of Texas in the second, North Carolina linebacker Cedric Gray in the fourth, and Jarvis Brownlee Jr., a cornerback out of Louisville in the fifth. 2024 was odd for the Titans, and what should have been an evaluation year for Will Levis and the rest of the younger players turned into a push for the playoffs type atmosphere with a trade for Snead and the signing of high-priced free agents. Whether the Titans liked it or not, they got a full evaluation of Will Levis starting week one when he literally handed the game to the Bears and didn't go much better the rest of the way. Will Levis played in 12 games, throwing for 2,091 yards, a 63% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Now, those might not seem like certain bust potential numbers, but the eye test tells a whole different story when watching him in real time. Altogether, the Titans finished 27th in points on offense and 26th in yards, while the defense allowed 469 points, which ranked 30th, but weirdly enough ranked second in yards allowed on defense. Kind of took me by surprise when I looked up the numbers, but here we are. Will Levis was not the only reason the Titans landed the first overall pick. The running game struggled minus Derrick Henry, ranking 19th in yards and 25th in rushing touchdowns. A decent number of issues could be chalked up to a big change in coaching style, going from Mike Vrabel to Brian Callahan, but it's hard to quantify that with data and statistics outside of maybe penalties. But the fact is, new coach or not, the Titans lost a lot of talent in the offseason and couldn't make up for it. After the 2024 season, the Titans brought in John Fossil to take over the special teams after issues in 2024. Do you remember how I told you to keep those info nuggets I gave you at the beginning of this? Well, on January 7th, 2025, the Titans fired Rand Carthon. Yes, the GM that Amy Strunk wanted the coach to have cohesion with after Rand hired this guy last year and now fires the GM who hired him, citing a lack of winning the past 2 seasons after her and Rand fired one of the most successful coaches they had in recent times. Yeah, that guy. I just don't get it. I don't know if she's just impatient or expects immediate success, and even if so, just come out and say that and fire everyone at the same time. Hire a GM who then hires a head coach so you can have your cohesion and communication and everyone is on the same timeline. Now you're stuck with a coach that's playing under a GM that didn't hire him, and you've gone through 3 GMs in 4 years. Anyway, in the 2025 offseason, the Titans said goodbye to edge rusher Harold Landry to the Patriots to reunite with Mike Vrabel. Kenneth Murray left for the Cowboys. Chidobe Awuzie went to the Ravens, and Mason Rudolph went back to the Steelers again. For additions, the Titans signed defensive tackle Jermont Jones from the Seahawks, along with wide receiver Tyler Dockett, offensive guard Kevin Zeitler from the Lions, safety Xavier Woods from the Panthers, linebacker Cody Barton from the Broncos, and left tackle Dan Moore Jr. from the Steelers. In the draft, the Titans added Miami quarterback Cam Ward with the first overall pick, UCLA defensive end Oluwafemi Oladejo in the second, Penn State safety Kevin Winston Jr. in the third, Florida wide receiver Chamari Dyke in the fourth, Texas tight end Gunnar Helm also in the fourth, Stanford wide receiver Alec Ayomanor again in the fourth, and offensive guard Jackson Slater in the fifth. The Titans are an enigma, and if they fire their head coach again after this season to do it all over again next season, it will blow my mind. If management legitimately wants a winning season with a playoff berth after a 13-4 season and a rookie quarterback, then I don't know what to tell them. Titans are firmly in rebuilding territory with me. Give me 3 to 6 wins this year. I'm exhausted. This team exhausts me. So that wraps up the AFC South. Next video about the NFC South and its 4 juggernauts. I want to take time out again to say thank you for watching. My subscriber count grew a decent amount these past 2 weeks. If I could hit 20 by the end of the month, that would be pretty incredible. I genuinely did not think I would garner much, if any, subscriptions when I started, but it does make me feel good. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one.